First Row Sports Show. Check us out on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. On CABC3, the future of broadcasting, with your host, Darnell Duff.
That ball hit hard. Stretch. Austin Jackson back looks up. You can. Ready on the board. Yeah.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
That's right. It's Friday afternoon. A lot of people are at home already. Hey, it's Sports Talk. It's the First Row Sports Show on CABC3, the future of broadcasting. We got lots to talk about. I'm Darnell Duff. But before that, we got Theo Tutkaluk in the booth. How you doing today, Theo?
Great. Good to see you on this Friday afternoon, Darnell. I'm looking forward to the weekend. It's going to be a beautiful one before the long weekend up here. What's first on the agenda, my man, Double D?
Well, it seems that we usually start with the Toronto Blue Jays.
We do.
Going into a big series against the Los Angeles Angels.
We do.
I think we should start with that, no?
Why not? Let's go with it.
All right, let's go. Let's talk about the 66-55 Toronto Blue Jays. The slumping Toronto Blue Jays, 7-3 in their last 10, but lost a little bit of a mockery on Wednesday night against the Philadelphia Phillies. Gave up 3 home runs in that game. Should have almost lost game 1 if it wasn't for their offense. They were down early in that game. But, I mean, going into Philadelphia, I know Philadelphia beat them back in Toronto a couple weeks prior, but I mean, Toronto had to beat them. I mean, Philadelphia is a glorified AAA team that has a couple MLB players, but in the end, a Toronto team that wants to make the playoffs has to beat the Philadelphia Phillies that game.
When you are bidding, like you said exactly, when you're bidding yourselves to be a top spot in the AL West or even as a wild card spot, which they still have, you are expected to beat the Philadelphia Phillies. I don't know if I would go as far as saying they're a bona fide AAA team. I mean, since they've now released or traded Chase Utley, their starting batter, and their shortstop, their longtime shortstop in Philadelphia, who's now a Los Angeles Dodger. They traded him for 2 minor leaguers. Now you could possibly call them a AAA team. But you know what? The Phillies have been playing a lot better ball since the All-Star break. They have been one of the better teams in the NL. You know, you can't expect the Toronto Blue Jays to go 55-0 since the trade deadline. None of us could really expect that, Double D. So
well,
you have
not,
to say
not 55-0, but
when you're playing the Phillies,
you're going into Philadelphia.
Yeah.
You have to get, especially at this part of the season, 110 games in, and you're in a playoff hunt for the first time in 23 years. You have to win ball games, and I mean, starting pitching has to be better. Dickey was bad in Game 1. Burley had one of his worst starts in Game 2.
It was his worst start. It was his quickest outing of the year, only pitching 4 innings, 7 hits, 4 earned runs. I mean, he did let up a lot of fastballs, a lot of quick balls out to the outfield, couple home runs that he never lets up. I mean, his pitch count per inning has dropped significantly since 2011. I think 2011 he was pitching between 19 and 21 pitches per inning, and now he's down to just under 14. So you consider that over a 7-inning run. That's the reason why Mark Burley has been such a great and better pitcher this year compared to 3 years ago. Dickey, exactly the same thing. Since the All-Star break, he's been on fire. He's been unstoppable. His knuckleball did not move for damn. It was sitting high in the zone. Pitchers were just sweet spotting it, looking at a massive grapefruit coming across the plate, and whammo, gone. So, you look at those 2 pitchers, not their best outings, certainly not against a great opponent in Philadelphia. Now you turn the page. Now you go to the West Coast. Now you look at the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, who are sitting below you, still holding that second wild card spot. They, too, have a bit of a slumping issue with our good boy Trout, who is hitting probably just under 200 for the first time in his last 70 at-bats, something you wouldn't expect from an MVP or soon-to-be 2-time MVP this year.
Well, now, it just seems like no matter what John Gibbons does, he's going to start getting flack. They had an 11-game winning streak, all was good. Now, I don't know if you heard the story about Russell Martin. He said before the game against the Philadelphia Phillies he had a groin strain. He said he was good to go, though. John Gibbons, after the game, said he didn't know about Russell Martin's. So obviously maybe that's a little bit of a lie. Anyways, Russell Martin got to start in Philadelphia. He went 1 for 4. He's batting .115 in the last 7 games. Horrid percentage. Still a great arm, though. I mean, he is a great catcher. But the big question is, a lot of people want John Gibbons out of there. And it just seems, John Gibbons has done a pretty good job this year. 2 11-game winning streaks, 22 games in a row. They went over a 2-month span. He's done a good job. Yes, maybe Russell Martin shouldn't have been in the lineup. But at the end of the day, I'll take a Russell Martin at 80% over Deanna Navarro 100%, and Josh Tolley's now in the lineup. He might play pitch Dickey over the weekend. But, I mean, at the end of the day, Russell Martin's a competitor. He wants to play. He wants to make a playoffs with a Canadian team, and I expect him to play tonight.
You'd expect him to play, but at the same time, Navarro has caught Dickey before and has caught Burley before. Two pitchers that did pitch in Philadelphia. Two pitchers that did pitch to Russell Martin standing behind the bat. So understand this from Navarro's perspective and maybe from a health perspective. I mean, you're resting Hutchinson already in AAA. You are resting Loop in AAA ball. If you're going to help a player kind of take care of a nagging injury or an injury that could be potentially a lot worse come the middle of September, why wouldn't you want to put him off the lineup and put Navarro in there to keep his feet wet? I think with Gibbons, you got to be honest with your fans. You got to be honest with the press. The press is going to eat you alive.
Well, it's Toronto press. But I got a question for you. Let's be honest. It's the middle of August. What player that plays over 100 games, especially at the catcher, one of the most tough positions in the game, you play 100 games in one season in the middle of August, how is your body not going to deteriorate? I mean,
of course, especially as a bat catcher, you're up and down, you're squatting, you're doing a lot more lower body motion than any other player on the field. And when you have a lower body injury like a groin or like a hamstring or like a knee, you have to really take care of that, because when you think of every time you pivot to throw a ball or to pitch a ball or to hit something, your groin can play a massive role. Not like any other body part that couldn't, but I mean, you have to flex, strain, move every which way that a normal player does not have to. And if you're a groin injury, because I've had many groin injuries coming through hockey and coming through football and soccer, they're a nagging thing. They just don't go away. They take plenty of weeks to rehab. And of course, these guys have great, tremendous technology with them to fix or help or work on hamstrings and groin pulls and shoulder issues and stuff like that. But when you have a player like Navarro that's sitting in the wing, ready to go, give him that place, give him that opportunity, because you never know. It may help out. Because, like you said, going 1-for-4 and batting 150 over the last however many games, that's not very good when it comes to helping out a Blue Jays team that's supposed to still compete and defeat the New York Yankees.
Well, so let's play head coach for the day. Now, I know John Gibbons probably has what he's going to do in mind already as they play in a few hours against the Los Angeles Angels in Anaheim, rather. Should Russell Martin be put on the 15-day DL and at that point see what's up, or just keep him in the lineup? Maybe don't start him, but keep him on the bench.
Keep him on the bench. I mean, keep him as day-to-day. I mean, you're not losing anything by having him day-to-day and partially available. I mean, if Navarro really blows it up after a game or two and you put him on the 15-day disabled list, you don't have access for him. And unless you want to retract it or make it into something where it was retroactive a couple weeks, then maybe you could do that. But, I mean, you don't just have to put him on the DL. Give Navarro a chance to do what he knows and what he can do. He still has a good bat. He still has a pretty decent arm. He can shape a pretty good pitch. He won't have to see Dickey against the Angels. I don't think Dickey's pitching against the Angels.
Yeah, Dickey does pitch on Sunday night.
On Sunday night. Okay, so they did change that. So, I mean, give him a shot for a couple days. Give him a break. What's wrong with that? Nothing.
Well, the Toronto Blue Jays are going in. They probably have one of the hardest remaining schedules in the major leagues for the rest of the season. They play 75% of their games against the AL East in September alone. So, I mean, that's obviously a pivotal game. They still have 7 more games against the New York Yankees. They're one and a half games behind them now. But you have the Los Angeles Angels chasing the Toronto Blue Jays. So all of a sudden, the Angels, just hypothetically, the Angels sweep the Toronto Blue Jays. They take over that first spot. And the Baltimore Orioles have a good series where they win 3 games. Who knows? It could be Toronto could be out the outside looking in if they don't get a couple games out of the Angels.
That's why it's so crucial to make good decisions right now as I'm playing manager for a day. And if you're going to really think about the opportunity that might slip away this weekend, I mean, you look at who the Yankees are playing. The Orioles are starting to pick up heat. The Angels are only sitting 2.5 games in that second wild card spot. And you said it exactly. After 3 or 4 games in Los Angeles, you could potentially see the Blue Jays out of a wild card spot and in 3rd place in the AL East. And that would be like a worst-case scenario. But like you mentioned in our last show, if they can go in there into Los Angeles and win 2 out of 3, then they're 1 game up on that, which makes it 3.5 up on Los Angeles in the wild card. You look at Baltimore, if they don't sweep, then they'll still be the same speed. and New York, I mean, they're playing up and down ball right now. The Yankees don't know if they're coming, if they're going, if they're working, if they're playing well. They've still got so many horseshoes going around that bullpen. Who knows what's working in New York, but it's working something.
Well, I think this weekend especially is going to really bring out the bandwagoners. If the Toronto Blue Jays somehow, I mean, it's probably not going to happen, but if they do find a way to lose all 3 games and Baltimore wins a couple games against the Minnesota Twins, Baltimore lost 15-2 last night against the Minnesota Twins. The Twins are chasing a wild card spot. Seems like they're dampening down a little bit after they got swept against the Toronto Blue Jays a couple weeks back. But who knows what those bandwagons? I know I've been a Toronto Blue Jays fan for a while, so I mean this is nice.
It's good to see, and it's not just good to see. It's good to see them make a great push this late in 23 years, and it's been a long time coming. And you don't want to see a team like this that's been put together so well in recent weeks to fall apart in the middle or end of September. I mean, you want to finish strong. You hope to the high heavens that these Blue Jays can somehow figure out a way to take over the Yankees or hold on to that first wild card spot, at least get into the second season, because anything happens in that second season. We all know that. We all know that the National League lower teams have won the World Series 3 out of the last 5 years. We know that power bats don't necessarily mean you win games. Pitching, defense, all that stuff put together, there's so much involved here that you have to look at it and say, okay, how well can the Blue Jays play an all-round game? Small ball, big bats, big pitching, great defense, great catching. Put it all together for the last 40, 50 games. Come out on top. I do want to touch on a quick story that was reported by ESPN. Back in 2010, Brian Cashman, the GM of the New York Yankees, I don't know if you heard about this or not, talked about Tulowitzki and said how much he would have rather had Tulowitzki on a Yankees order as opposed to Derek Jeter. Now, I'm talking about number 2, Derek Jeter. Probably one of, if not the best shortstops, second baseman, infielders, if you will, to ever wear a Yankees uniform. For Brian Cashman to come out and say that versus Troy Tulowitzki, who is a younger player, yes, power player, yes, has had injuries since 2010. But think about that for 1 second, D. Do you think that was the right thing for Brian Cashman to say, or is he just saying what he's truthfully felt, and now he's okay to say it because number 2 is retired?
Well, I think he's safe right now because Jeter is retired. But, I mean, even the fact that he did say it, I would take Jeter over Tulowitzki.
Hands down.
I mean, you didn't get a ball past Derek Jeter. Sure, maybe he had some of his lower averages in his career in the later part of his career, but he was getting older. Derek Jeter, hands down over Troy Tulowitzki. He could hit the ball. He was Mr. Clutch. He was one of the best players in Yankees history, and probably is going to go down as one of the best shortstops and infielder, like you said, in MLB history.
I can't agree with you more. And to say, I mean, you look at the wall at Yankee Stadium. You have number 2, number 3, number 5, number 7, number 9. I mean, those are numbers that if you're a Yankees fan, you know those names off by heart. And the fact that Jeter is in that discussion with the likes of Ruth, Mantle, Gehrig, and DiMaggio, those guys are greats. Those guys are legends. And those players will be legends, not just in Yankee uniforms, but in Major League Baseball history. And, you look over the course of Jeter's average, he was batting, career-wise, if not over, but close to 300. Sure, he didn't have the power that Tulowitzki had, but he had the RBIs. He definitely had the infield. I mean, he was a Gold Glove winner. He was World Series galore. I mean, the guy was Mr. Clutch, like you said, and he was part of a really great program and a really great organization at a really good time. So I don't think you could try to persuade me to take Tulo over Jeter.
I think some respect was lost there for Brian Cashman. I don't know if many people are going to say it because he pretty much runs that Yankees organization, but as a viewer myself, I definitely lost some respect for Cashman.
You know what? Brian Cashman's been under the hot seat ever since George Sr. passed away, and he's taken the reins, so to speak, from Junior and said, you know what? I got to run this team because this is the way Dad would have wanted it, or this or that or the other. I know this from past previous experience and all that jazz. Yada, yada, yada. Come up with more excuses, Cashman, because let me tell you, you don't have a team on paper that should be in the number 1 spot in the AL East. You don't. But your horseshoes are being cashed in big time, so to speak. And thankfully and luckily enough, you've got a wonderful manager in Joe Girardi that's showing these players, hey, with a little bit of work, a little bit of hard work, you can play well. I mean, Brett Gardner is case in point. I mean, Jacoby Ellsbury is not having a great year. CC Sabathia is not having a great year. Carlos Beltran's not even hitting 15 home runs anymore. But you've got Mark Teixeira, who is putting that team on his back. And you've got a starting rotation that is out of this world, out of nowhere. Nowhere knows where they come from. 4 out of the 5 pitchers came out of a Cracker Jack box, for crying out loud. You didn't even know where they came from, and they've been injured half the season. So there's certainly a lot of respect has to go to the managing and the organization group of the New York Yankees. Brian Cashman, yeah, you put some luck into it too. The Yankees are there because of hard work, simply put.
What do you guys think? Do you think Brian Cashman went over the limit? Tell me. Let me know on Facebook, Darnell Duff, or check out my YouTube page as well, Darnell Duff. Starters for tonight's game on the Toronto Blue Jays and the LA Angels, 10:05 Eastern on Sportsnet and Sportsnet 590 The Fan. David Price for the Toronto Blue Jays. He's 11-4 with a 2.41. He's 2-0 with the Blue Jays with 1 undecision. And Hector Santiago for the Los Angeles Angels, 7-6, 2.86 ERA. Like I said, you can see that game on Sportsnet and Sportsnet 590 The Fan. Tiger Woods put together his best round since 2013 on Thursday afternoon at the Wyndham Championship, 6 under. Is he going to make the playoffs of the FedEx Cup? He's only 2 spots back up as we speak. You're listening to the First Row Sports Show on CABC3, the future of broadcasting.
Oh, drat these computers. They're so naughty and so...
Welcome back to the First Row Sports Show on CABC3, the future of broadcasting. Darnell Duff and Theo Tutkaluk. Before we talked about the Toronto Blue Jays and their absolutely pivotal series against the Los Angeles Angels this weekend. That game starts 10:05 Eastern tonight on Sportsnet and Sportsnet 590 The Fan. We're going to switch over to the PGA Tour and the final tournament before the FedEx Cup playoffs start. Tiger Woods may be in the FedEx Cup playoffs. He may not. After how he played yesterday, 6 under. It looks that way. He's currently 1 under through 10 holes today, so he's tied for 7th. So he will make the cut. I mean, that you don't see Tiger Woods making the cut very often on the PGA Tour anymore. But obviously, he's only 4 back of the lead. He hasn't really done much in 4 or 5 years. I know he won those 5 tournaments, but I mean, other than that, he's been missing tournaments, missing time play. Who even knows if he's going to make the FedEx Cup playoffs? But is this exactly what Tiger Woods needs, even if he doesn't make the playoffs, going into next year to win more tournaments?
He's just got to put back his solid game plan. And you and I are both golfers, and we're not the greatest golfers that some of these PGA guys are because we've got other things on our plate. But more or less, I mean, we've always said that between 85 and 95% of the game is between your ears. And if Tiger Woods can maintain a simple and solid game plan between his ears, he's got the stroke, he's got the game plan. He's played pretty much every single course he's played in his illustrious career. There's no reason why Tiger, if he could keep it out of his head, play great golf. I mean, he's 7 under sitting right now, like you said, 4 shots off the pace, tied for 8th. No doubt going to make the cut, which should put him in that FedEx Cup, into the next FedEx Cup running. But I think he's also looking, like you said, into the future and saying, you know what, this is the potential. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. I know I can play. I still can play great golf. I think he will do very well here this weekend. So maybe he's showing himself and he's trying to show the critics that, yeah, I still had a couple of good games in me.
Well, we talk a lot about putting 4 rounds together. 2 is good. 3 is really good. 4 is going to win you tournaments. Tiger Woods put 1 round together. Looks like he's going to put 2, like I said. After 10 holes, he's 1 under, 4 strokes behind the lead. A guy we've been talking about lately who hasn't really done much lately, played at the PGA Championship, had one of his better tournaments of the season in Brandt Snedeker. He shot an even par 72 in round 1, comes back in round 2. All of a sudden, the guy shoots 9 under par with 2 bogeys on the card. He made 11 birdies with the combination of eagles in there as well. This guy, you haven't heard much from him, but I mean, 9 under in 1 round. Is Brandt Snedeker finally on the rise? Where you saw him a couple years ago, I mean, he was on the President's Cup team. This guy's a good golfer. I don't know what he did for the first half, 3 quarters of the season, but it seems like he's getting into shape right now. Maybe he's going to make a run at the FedEx Cup.
He's doing good work. I mean, like you said, I think he's got the lowest round of the tournament so far at 9 under, and he's sitting right now tied for 3rd place. The guy was lights out in the 2nd round, no doubt about it. And you know what? Good for him. I mean, you know, it's finally we are starting to see a Brandt Snedeker of the old and of one that hits the ball well and strikes the putts solid. 2 bogeys, can't go wrong with that. I mean, we can't play perfect golf, but 9 holes under par, or 11 holes, in the second round, under par. Pretty amazing stuff. I mean, Davis Love also shooting a pretty solid round. He's sitting second right now with a -10. I mean, here's a guy that hasn't been really near the top 10 ballpark in the last couple of years. Been dodging some tournaments here and there, and he's showing up and playing well this week as well. Paul Casey doing well. Tiger, we said. Jason Gore out of nowhere. He's shooting 7 under. So there's some names there that we haven't quite talked about in a long time. And I think some of the players are just kind of saying, maybe we'll take a break on this one. Some of these players are saying this is where we have to show up and we got to make that FedEx cut so that we can keep playing for this championship.
Well, all I can say is my boy Ollie Schneiderjans didn't exactly perform how I would have thought he would have at the PGA Championship, but he's 3 under today. He's going to likely make the cut. I mean, the cut is at 2 under right now. And let's switch over. Let's talk about the U.S. Amateur playing at the Olympia Fields in Illinois. A Canadian is in the quarterfinals now. We know Canada golf has been tough. We haven't, outside of Mike Weir, we haven't really branded a golfer who can win tournaments at the PGA level. And now I know he's only an amateur. Who knows what's going to happen? But, I mean, to get to the quarterfinals in the U.S. Amateur is definitely a big positive for him going forward.
A huge upswing and a lot of potential in this gentleman, no doubt. I mean, you have to look, and we talked briefly a couple of weeks back about U.S. golf teams compared to Canadian golf teams and how much more pressure there is and how much more support there is for Division I, Division II golf teams in the United States. And you look at these players, I mean, a lot of these guys that do go to the States, I mean, I know a couple that have gone to Arizona State and gone to U of A and, gone to U Georgia and stuff like that, and they've all done very well. And they go there because of the opportunity and the scholarship money to get an education to play golf 10 months of the year. You can't play golf in Winnipeg, or you can't play golf in Canada for 10 months of the year. So for these guys to have the opportunity to go in the southern states and do that is pretty amazing. And when you think about it, you're 18, 19 years old, what better things to do? Go play golf, get school paid for, go have some fun at a college, make sure you don't get caught drinking under 21, go have some fun.
If I had the opportunity, I would have taken it. Instead, I'm paying a little bit of money for school, but hey, who knows? I'm not going to be a professional golfer. I'm not going to be a good golfer, if that means. But who knows what's going to pay off, right?
And I think it works. I mean, you just talk about golf. You talk about every sport that a Canadian has an opportunity to play. I mean, I was at the gym yesterday morning, and there was a young lady there wearing an MSU sweater, Missouri State or Montana State. I forgot which one it was. But I quickly asked her, I said, you go to Montana State, Missouri State? She goes, yes, I do. I said, you're on a full-ride scholarship? Yes, I am. You're playing volleyball? Yes, I am. And you think about how many athletes get those questions answered like that and get them replied with yeses. It makes you think how great of a hotbed Winnipeg, or Canada for that matter, has for some of these athletes. Andrew Wiggins, case in point. Here's a guy that goes to Kentucky, gets drafted first overall. He's just from outside Toronto. Now, we have 1 or 2 of these ducks that show up and do these things once or twice a year. Obviously, Canada is still our number one sport, still our number one grounding for what we pedigree, what we put together, how we breed those athletes. But you look at baseball, women's volleyball, men's volleyball, women's diving, women's swimming. I mean, I worked with a girl that went to NC State, and she had a full-ride scholarship for diving, which was fantastic. I worked with a bunch of people in Georgia that went to a small Kennesaw University, a small Christian college, Division III. Their whole team was all Canadian. And case in point, I wouldn't have had a brother 2 years younger than me go to play hockey in Atlanta, Georgia for free for 8 full years, all because he could play great hockey and get a schooling paid for. For any athlete, student athlete out there that's in high school that feels they have an opportunity or a chance, I highly recommend looking at your options. You will grow mentally, physically, emotionally. You'll be surrounded by great people that play great sports with you. You will build peer groups, mentorships, coaching strategies, you name it. It is an amazing opportunity if you have that opportunity to go and explore and play hockey or play a sport and have your schooling paid for. Hands down, one of the best things you could ever do. I just golfed with a buddy of mine from the work as well, and his good friend was Bob Cameron's son, who had a full ride to UND. Can't complain about that. 3 hours across the border, he's playing football. Obviously, he didn't make the Saskatchewan Rough Riders or the Bombers when he came back, but now he's going to med school, and that's props to him. Good job, Cameron. Well done.
Well, what started with 120-player stroke play on Tuesday afternoon at Olympia Fields in Olympia Fields, Illinois, The U.S. Amateur is down to 8 players. The Canadian, like I said, Austin James is 2 up through 5 against Sean Crocker. In other matches, Paul Dunn, you might remember him from the Open Championship last year. He was an amateur. He's in the final 2 pairings of that. He's even through 9 holes. So, there's a lot of good players here. Who knows what's going to happen? U.S. Amateurs, they usually become, you'll probably remember Jordan Spieth. He's now the number 1 player in the world. He's not playing this week at the Wyndham Championship, taking a little bit of break, going to try and go for the FedEx Cup playoffs. He's way in front of anybody in that one. He's got over 4,000 points. The next one has, I believe, 2,900. Anyway, you're listening to the First Row Sports Show on CABC3, the future of broadcasting. After the break, Tom Brady, is he going for a suspension? We'll talk about it. See you after the break.
CABC3. And household products, visit tiberriver.ca. Tiber River, handmade with integrity.
Welcome back to the First Row Sports Show on CABC3, the future of broadcasting. Before the break, we talked about the Toronto Blue Jays, the PGA Tour, and the U.S. Amateur at Olympia Fields in Illinois. Now we're going to talk about Tom Brady. Is his 4-game suspension going to be upheld? Is it going to be cut in half to 2 games? Is he even going to get off the hook? Tom Brady did say he will accept his punishment if it does come that, and he does get suspended 4 games. Do you think Tom Brady deserves to be suspended 4 games?
Well, let's go back here a little bit because we've had some intricate details occur in the last couple of days here between Roger Goodell and Tom Brady. The Supreme Court and Supreme judges have stepped in and have given Roger Goodell and Tom Brady a deadline to all this matter. Now, obviously, the first game is September 10th for Tom Brady without a suspension if he does not get suspended. There has to be some kind of conclusion or decision brought together between the NFLPA, Tom Brady, and Roger Goodell, the NFL commissioner. If that is not done before the last week of August, I think, then the Supreme Court will drop in and say, this is what we've decided, based on the evidence and based on the evidence supported. Obviously, Tom Brady is still feeling, hey, you know what? This has gone on way too long. And I think every NFL fan has said, this has gone on way too long. This should have been a decision that should have been passed, should have been upheld, should have been retracted, whatever the case may be. Obviously, this was some kind of publicity stunt, I think, for Roger Goodell to say, you know what? I'm supposed to have power, but I don't have power. Because I still have this one guy, this golden boy in Tom Brady, pushing around the NFL. If your boss were to come to you, if I were to go to my boss and say, you know what, I had nothing to do with the balls that were deflated, and say I had nothing to do with that, nothing going on, okay, I get that. But then I go back and I look through the video and I look through all the evidence and all that stuff, and I find out that, you know what, hey, Tom, your balls were a little bit deflated. Did you not feel the difference when you were throwing them?
So is it only specifically Tom Brady that were using these balls? Russell Wilson didn't use the same ball.
Well, it has nothing to do with Russell Wilson, nothing to do with the Super Bowl game. This has to deal with the championship game between the Colts and the Patriots at Gillette Stadium.
Okay, so did Andrew Luck get a chance to play with these same footballs? Or was it just Tom Brady?
See, from what I understand is each team supplies the referees or the umpires with 12 or 14 game balls. And they are rotated through in succession so that they're kept dry, they're kept at the right temperature. All of those other factors are taken into account. So the Colts have their balls and the Patriots have their balls.
But at some point, Andrew Luck did play with those same footballs.
Probably,
So
yeah.
Why is Tom Brady under so much fire? I know he won the game. So if Andrew Luck won that football game against the New England Patriots, is he going to be the one that is going to get that suspension?
Or let me say that question a different way to you, D. What if the Colts won that game, and what if Tom Brady said, hey, you know what? I felt some of those balls being a little bit deflated. Those weren't my balls that were supplied. Those were the Colt balls. How are they going to tell the difference between a Colt ball and a Patriot ball if they mixed them up? The bottom line is balls were deflated.
Whoever won that game
is under scrutiny.
The quarterback was getting in trouble. And that is ridiculous because Andrew Luck had the same opportunity. If he used those footballs, he had the same opportunity as Tom Brady did to throw touchdowns. The Patriots just outplayed the Indianapolis Colts. At the end of the day, the Patriots played better football. Deflated balls or non-deflated balls, the Patriots played better. Tom Brady should not be under so much scrutiny as he is, as Andrew Luck is just getting off with Whatever. They lost the football game. Go ahead to this year.
Or any other NFL quarterback of any year.
You can't tell me that before
That one
every
instance.
single game that they don't put the ball to their liking. It's like in the MLB when they get their baseball. They can rub sand on it. They get it to their liking. You can't tell me that not every quarterback, not all 30 starting quarterbacks in the NFL do the exact same thing.
Why don't you just take away the quarterback's discretion whatsoever? Take it out of it. Take it out of
Put
the
your
equation.
own balls.
No, scratch that. The NFL and the NFL Umpires Association, or the NFLPA, whatever you want to call them, they're the ones that travel around with 20 balls.
They have their
They
balls.
bring their own balls.
Those are the game balls.
Those are the game balls. Because you know what? Why don't we just take it out of the equation? So you put 20 game balls in there, okay? 30 game balls, if you will. You get them all the right PSIs. I don't care what the number is, 11.2, 13.1, 12.8, whatever the frick the number is. Quarterbacks, you get to play with these balls. Oh, I don't like it. Grow up. I'm sorry, you don't like chocolate ice cream, you got vanilla, but too bad. This is the ball you're playing with. And guess what? That's the same ball that the other quarterback's going to play with. It's just like the same field, the same pads, the same measurements on the lines, the same uprights, the same place where you kick a field goal from or a point after kick. It's all the same. And if you want to take the human error out of the equation, there it is. But because you have all of these insurmountable places and these opportunities for human error, which what makes sport, you are going to continue to have these instances. That is why America's pastime, America's greatest game, baseball, has rescinded or has not wanted instant replay for so long. Because it's America's pastime game. It's the greatest game of all time. It's American baseball. Football has those human error capacities as well. But now we're looking at it and we're taking all of those human error instances out of the equation and we're adding computer and technology into it. So we're continually scrutinizing something. So it's not becoming a game of sport. Rather, it's becoming a game of robotic. What can I get away with and what am I going to get caught with?
I think the biggest thing that frustrates me in this situation is what were those footballs even doing on the football field in the first place? The umpires, you tell me the refs or the umpires wouldn't have had a clue. Andrew Luck played the full game and then at the end of the game raises something up. I mean, this is ridiculous. Tom Brady should not be penalized for this. I mean, Andrew Luck did the exact same thing. All 30 starting quarterbacks do the exact same thing. Every sport, each player wants to get a head up on their competitor. They're going to do what they had to do. Tom Brady did it. They whooped the Indianapolis Colts. They went to the Super Bowl. They shouldn't have won the Super Bowl, but they did. They won the Super Bowl championship. Tom Brady, in my eyes, should not be suspended.
No. And you know one more thing? Last time I checked, when I watched an NFL game, either on TV or live, that ball is handled by a referee between every single play. Not by just one, potentially 2, 3 different referees, as well as a line referee to bring in a new ball. So you're telling me none of those guys would be squishing a ball and feel like, this feels a little awkward. This feels a little squishy. What do you think? I mean, all of these eyebrow-raising questions, and we're still talking about it 9 months later. It's awful. It's terrible publicity. It just shows how inept Roger Goodell is. But the only reason why I think he still is NFL commissioner is because the owners' pockets have never been bloated as much as they are today.
I think
he's making the owners a piss load of money.
And the owners want the money. At the end of the day, they want the money. If Goodell's giving them, they'll keep him. I think the easiest thing for Roger Goodell is to go on the Patriots. They've been known to cheat before, stealing playbooks, whatever it is. Sure, if this was the Washington Redskins, I don't think there would have been an issue. But it's because it's the New England Patriots. I think it's ridiculous, in my mind.
Well, let's jump off topic real quick here, because you do mention the Washington Redskins. Remember what a Patriot is. A Patriot is a rebel. Now, back in the 1600s, when they left England and they came to divide their own colonies, Patriots were coined that term. They wanted to be rebels. They wanted to be their own rights, their own lands, their own freedoms. So maybe they're just acting like true patriots as patriots were. I'll leave it at that on New England side. Robert Griffin III, he gets injured. He has a price tag that guarantees him money, close to $16 million of money, if he gets injured no matter what. Do you think that's a good play or a bad play for the Washington Redskins?
For the Redskins, it's a terrible play. Absolutely 100%, because especially given Griffin's past, I mean, the guy has been known to get injured with his knee problems, missing seasons. I mean, that was an absolutely awful play. You're basically saying, you know what, you may only play 2 games for us. It's like putting me on the football line. I have basically no knee, putting me in the NFL and saying, you know what, if you get a concussion or a knee problem in the first game, we're still going to pay you $15 million a season. I'll laugh. If I'm saying, yeah, I'm good for that. I will not get hurt. And I'm sure Robert Griffin was playing that card. Yeah, I'm perfect. He also said he thinks he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And when he's healthy, maybe sure he's in the ballpark of being one of the better quarterbacks in the league. He's definitely not better than Tom Brady in my mind at all.
He's not in my top 5, not even my top 10.
Absolutely not. But I mean, he probably played the good card, said I'm good to go. Now who knows? But it doesn't matter. He's getting $16 million, even with Robert Griffin III playing the quarterback. The Washington Redskins probably aren't going very far.
No, I don't think they have a team that's they've got some weapons like Deshaun Jackson. They have beefed up their O-line a bit to protect Griffin III. I mean, but like you said, how he injured himself the last 2 out of 3 years, the guy, he has the potential to not finish a season. The over-under on him is 14 games in Las Vegas right now. Question is, will he get to 14 games? You would like to think so. So you get to see the best Washington Redskins team out there. However, we may not see that. I mean, that's the Washington Redskins. That's Snyder's baby boy. I mean, he runs that team ultimately, and he feels that he's doing the right thing, and he can spend his money however he wishes. I mean, he's still going to hold on to the name Redskins for as long as his heart's desire because he doesn't want to get rid of it. That's a whole different topic, a whole different discussion we can get to on Monday perhaps. But, I mean, he's finally got it signed out. LaShawn McCoy injured himself in Buffalo Bills practice. He's not going to be ready to go until the beginning of the season. The Bills aren't too concerned, but there is somewhat of a concern there because they are expecting him to be the workhorse in Buffalo. He likes the cold weather. He can juke with the best of them. He's Barry Sanders-like now. He gets the respect in the locker room. Hopefully he gets a full recovery. Outside of that, I mean, Phillip Rivers signing 4 more years in San Diego. I don't know. That's his last 4 years in San Diego, I think, because there's not much coming out of there anymore. They've got to really turn the key there and really start revamping that O-line and those offensive weapons, because as much of a Supercharger fan as I am, I think that ship's going down unless we've got some serious work to go.
It's sinking pretty quickly without those players.
I tell you one thing, I mean, they're looking forward to a new stadium or a new team. I don't know which one's going to come first, the over-under there. But, I mean, the LA Rams, I mean, let's go quickly around the NFL. I mean, I call them the LA Rams. The St. Louis Rams, their owners have potentially put in this bid to have this trifecta unit outside of Carson, California, this megadome for 2, maybe 3 potential NFL teams. That's crazy. They're the first ones to jump in. LA's probably going to be 2, and if San Diego goes in, it'll be 3. That's going to be a major move for a major city that should have an NFL team already because it doesn't. But, I mean, how do you think the fans in St. Louis feel about hearing this news and losing your Rams? I mean, the Rams play pretty decent ball. I mean, they haven't had great seasons. They've got good coaching finally. They've got some good pieces to the puzzle. Maybe they can start putting some wins together, but those owners don't want to stick around in a losing franchise. They want to,
It's tough, but it's professional sports. It has to be done.
I agree. I mean, it's one of those things where you look at the opportunity and you're given that opportunity to have this unbelievable buildings built for you. Why not? I mean, it's a move. We look at Arizona back to the NHL. We look at the Arizona Coyotes and their potential to only have their lease for the next 3 years, and they may be moving to Las Vegas to be that new team. So who's to know? Lots of moving around, lots of shaking going on. All I know is it's preseason week 2. We got 2 more games after, 3 more, 1 more game after this in the NFL, and then the season starts September 10th. Looking forward to the beginning of NFL, that's for sure.
What do you guys think? Check me out on Facebook, Darnell Duff, or my YouTube page, Darnell Duff as well. Tom Brady, should he be suspended 4 games, 2 games, 0 games? Is this just ridiculous? Should Roger Goodell be on the way out? He isn't because, like we said before, he's given the owners money. On Monday, the Calgary Flames, the Calgary Hitmen, the Calgary Dinos, I mean, they're pretty much making a super center. If you've ever been to Costco in Winnipeg, it's got everything you need for food, entertainment. That's pretty much what you're going to get for sports in Calgary. This proposed deal is $890 million. It's going to have a rink that plays the Hitmen, the Flames. You're going to have for the Dinos football team. You're going to have for the Stampeders. It's going to be absolutely huge, almost $1 billion. We're going to talk about it more on Monday on the First Row Sports Show. Darnell Duff, Theo Tutkaluk, have a great weekend.
You did it.
I'm hungry. Let's go.
Where are we going?
Buffet.